Hello, Year 10. Welcome along. I hope you've had a wonderful half term. Welcome back. And today, what we're going to do is we're going to actually go back to looking at Blood Brothers. We're going to add a little bit of variety to our lives. So, at the end of last term, I asked you to look at live theatre, and today we're going to have a little bit of a review of lighting and lighting terminology, because while we did our mock exam, we didn't actually look at the technical question. So I'm going to go through some of that information with you today. So our objectives are, we're going to start off today's session by identifying appropriate lighting features and terminologies. And I'm going to give you probably a sheet that you've seen before, and I'm going to ask you to review that knowledge clearly and articulately for me, and I'm going to explain how I want you to do that task in a moment. I'm then going to ask you to demonstrate the knowledge and understanding of the mood and atmosphere within a scene from Blood Brothers. And then finally, I'm going to ask you to apply appropriate lights to demonstrate an appropriate mood and atmosphere within an extract. And I'll talk to you about how I want you to structure that in a few moments' time. So, what you are going to need for today's lesson is this. You are going to need your drama exercise book to take down any notes. You're going to need a copy of Blood Brothers. And then for the final task, you might need some of your previous class notes that you've taken to help you with recalling some of the analytical knowledge for lighting. That's absolutely fine, but please do not use this for task one. Task one is a test of memory. And finally, before I move on, if you don't have a copy of Blood Brothers, what I have done is I have sent you the extract that you need for today's session as part of the email, so please make sure that you have that in front of you. So, can I ask you to pause the video now? Make sure that these resources are in front of you and that you have these to hand, and then come back when you have done this. So pause the video now. Okay, everybody, welcome back. So again, what I said is that you probably have seen this mix and match worksheet in front of you before. So on the left-hand side, you can see pictures of a variety of lighting, either terminology, features, or it could be the actual lights themselves. Now, what you see in the middle column is you see the names of the light or the lighting feature, and they are identified next to Roman numerals. In the first box on the left-hand side, you can see that the picture is identified with a letter. And then finally, what you have on the right-hand side is you have a description of the appropriate light. Okay, and all I'm going to ask you to do is this. So in your exercise book, I'd like you to match all of these together. Now, do not overcomplicate this. All that you need to do is as follows. So I'm going to give you an example. The example might be wrong, so please do not take this as a correct answer. But an example of an answer might be C, I, 3. Okay, and you would write that down, okay? Because what you will need is you will need to just make sure that when you go through this with me, that you will be able to identify the correct answers. So basically what you need to do is for question number 1, you might put A, the Roman numeral from box 2, and then the number from box 3. So again, all you need to do is just make sure that when you review this that you have all of it to hand. So I want this to take no longer than about 2 minutes. I'm going to ask you to pause the video now. Okay, pause it so that the information is in front of you and write down the correct answers for me, please. Okay, wonderful. Welcome back, everybody. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pair up these lights for you. I'm actually going to go with the descriptions first. Okay, so we're going to go to the right-hand box, and then I'm going to tell you the answer from the middle box, and then finally into the left box to show you the picture of the light. So it filters the light, creating a picture effect on the stage. For example, it could be used to create a dappled lighting effect to look like the leaves of a forest, or could be cut to create strips of light on stage which might look like the bars of a prison. This is a gobo, and a gobo is pictured in D in the left-hand column. So well done if you got 1, I, D. Description number 2. Lanterns give a soft-edged beam with the large size variation used to create large washes of light, sometimes coloured, because you can add gels to them. The soft-edged beams can be symbolic of freedom. They are best suited to naturalistic pieces of drama. This is, of course, a Fresnel, which is demonstrated to you in A. Picture A in the left-hand box. Description number 3. The light has an intense beam, and this is one that could be used is usually used with cheaper lights. Okay, so they are cheap lights, commonly used in pop concerts. You can apply barn doors and gels to this light. It's good for creating an intense atmosphere due to the intensity and the power of the light. That is, of course, a parcan, and a parcan is displayed for you in picture F. Okay, so that would be 3VIIF. Description number 4. It gives you a sharply defined image in outlays of any object. They are fitted with shutters, usually 4, which can be pushed into the light beam, shaping its appearance on stage. Spot has a hard-edged effect used to light characters or elements on the stage. Something that I will add, it's really good for creating entrapment. It is, of course, a profile spot, and it is demonstrated in picture C. So that would be 4VIC, or in a different order. Okay, so description number 5. Used to provide large areas of washes of light. They come equipped with a gel frame and are especially useful for lighting backcloths. They cannot be shaped or beams. This is a floodlight, and you can see that in picture B. Okay, so for a process of elimination, you will see they are used to direct light to a particular area of the stage. This can only be used with a soft edge light, or it could also be used with a parcan. That description is not quite accurate. And that is barn doors, and that is pictured in picture E in the left-hand box. So add up those scores. You do not need to send me this information. This is more of an exercise for you to know whether you need to do anything now. Now, what we are going to do is go on to our main task for today's session. So you will need now in front of you your extract of Blood Brothers, okay? And the extract, or your copy of Blood Brothers, and the extract that we're going to look at today is at the end of the play. It's pages 104 to 107. It's going to start with the stage direction. We see Edward standing behind a table on a platform, and it's going to end with the final line that is not sung in the play, and that is how they were born and died the self-same day, and that is a narrator line. Now, what you might want to do at this moment is you might want to pause the video. And you might want to pause the video so that you can complete a really basic task, which is in the left-hand side blue box. So before you approach this task, it might be really beneficial for you to read through the extract and note down the mood and the atmosphere. So any adjectives that might describe the mood and atmosphere in the scene before you actually look at using lights to do this. And I think it might be really good for you to do that, just because it gives us that the area that we know what mood and atmosphere we're trying to create, but actually now we can think about the lights that we want to use to create that. So if you would like to do that now, pause the video before I explain the task that we are going to do. Okay, welcome back, or if you are continuing on, wonderful. I'm going to explain our main task to you now. So I've got the extract and I've explained that to you already. The instructions for this task are, I'm going to ask you to annotate how you would use lighting on a specific moment or specific moments within the extract that is on pages 104 to 107. And I'm going to ask you to analyse how you would create mood and atmosphere within that scene using lighting. So, the success criteria for this task is, I'd like you to use appropriate lighting terminology when analysing your specified moment. So it's really important that when you've got your moment and you've got your quote, you use the appropriate terminology. So if you're talking about a really bright wash of light, you need to be talking about a parcan. And if you're talking about creating something that's naturalistic, you need to be talking about using a Fresnel light. So we've got to be making sure that we're using the correct terminology when we're reviewing our moments. The next thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to describe how the features of the light aid you in creating a specific mood or atmosphere which is appropriate for that moment in that scene. So it might be, I'm going to go through an example with you in a moment, but it might be that you want to say, on this quote, I'm using this, and I'm using it to create this effect. But this is how the light does it. So it might be that you're trying to create a really intense moment. The parkan is a really intense beam, and the intensity of that light aids you to create that intense moment and that create intense atmosphere on the stage. I'm going to ask you to select 4 to 6 moments, okay? And they would be quotes to review in detail. And I want you to ensure, again, that you're making links back to how you are using lighting to create a specific mood and atmosphere in the scene. So they are the instructions. You're welcome to come back to these in a moment, but I'm going to go through a really quick example for you. So you can see in front of you the beginning of the extract. I'm actually going to look my quote is actually from page 106, so I'm going to move on to that now. So you can see example in the top box, and actually there's a little bit of space that I have used in the bottom right-hand corner of the extract where I have just reviewed it. And so you can see in bold, in the box on the right-hand side where I have made my annotations, I've got light, I've got reason, and I've got mood and atmosphere. Now, I'm going to ask you every single time you pick a moment, and you need to be picking between 4 and 6, that you use these words in bold to effectively do detailed annotations. So it's important that we write down the light, it's important that we write down the reason for choosing that light, and then it's important that we talk about how that creates an appropriate mood and atmosphere. So I'm going to go through my example with you now. So I've only done 1, but you're needing to be doing between 4 and 6. So Mrs. Johnston: Mickey, don't shoot Eddie, he's your brother. You had a twin brother, I couldn't afford to keep you both. His mother couldn't have kids, I agreed to give one of you away. Now I'm going to use a parkan, and I'm going to use a parkan for that because it's a really intense light, okay? And that is a really intense moment. The mood and the atmosphere is so tense because Mickey is so unstable. He realises that Edward's been having an affair with his wife Linda. He is mentally unstable. He's stopped taking his medication. He's deeply depressed, and actually we are really uncertain of how he's going to act in that moment. So the really intenseness is going to be really well demonstrated using a parkan because of that intense beam. And I'm going to talk about why now with my mood and atmosphere. So the intensity of the light on full beam would demonstrate Mrs. J's panic and further demonstrate the intensity of the atmosphere in the scene. The brightness really demonstrates that well, because imagine that you are so panicked about something, all that you can see is light. She is panicked by Mickey's state of mind, and the full beam would replicate her heightened emotions because of the heightened nature and the heightened intensity of the lights. And she is going, and it would also demonstrate an awareness of the instability of that situation. The extreme light, or the extreme beam on that light, or the intensity of the light, is also effective in demonstrating her extreme panic, and represents the panic of the characters in the other scene. So it's really important, and what I have done is I have described and analysed how the features of my light demonstrate the mood and atmosphere that I'm trying to show. So that tense, that intense, that panicked, that unstable mood and atmosphere. And I've spoken about how my parkan does that. So again, all I'm going to ask you to do is I'm going to ask you for the remainder of today's session to complete that task. And it should take you no longer than about 30 minutes. You can see the kind of detail that I'm looking for. And I'm going to talk to you about how you might want to structure that now. So, submitting your work I'm going to come to in a moment, but you can see just at the bottom of the screen how you might structure your work. So you may choose to make annotations on your copy of Blood Brothers at home in pencil, and you might want to photograph these to me. Now that might be quite difficult because you don't have the space to make really detailed annotations on your copy at home. It might be that you don't want to write on it. I know that I don't like writing on my place, so I completely understand. It might be that in fact you may choose to write down quotes on a piece of paper and then analyse these using the structure of choosing the light, describing the features of the light, and then talking about how that is created an appropriate mood and atmosphere for that moment. That's fine. You can, of course, do that. Or you may choose to do as I have done, okay? And you may choose to edit the PowerPoint resources that I have sent you. And it might be that you want to just circle the quote that you are talking about, draw a line from it, and then analyze it in a text box. And you might just want to upload to Microsoft Teams your copy of that PowerPoint slide, or the 2 slides that I'm going to be sending you. So yeah, of course, you're more than welcome to do that. There's 3 ways. There's no right or wrong way to do it, but the detail is really important. So what I'm going to ask you to do is, when you have done that, I'd like you to upload your work to Microsoft Teams. If you are unable to do that, then you can send it to me via email. It needs to be for the due date. Please take really careful note. Obviously, we're in really unprecedented times. If you can't submit to me, please email me. That's absolutely fine. But we need to be staying on top of our work. So please try to get that in to me on the due date that has been sent to you in our email. Okay, stay safe. Thank you very much. Let me know if you have any questions. Goodbye.